Welcome into Shot and Vipp, a podcast brought to you by Inside Carolina this football season. Shot, we are starting today's show off with the somber news of UNC receiver Tylee Craft passing away Saturday morning at the age of 23 after a lengthy battle with cancer. It's a terrible loss for the Carolina football program, and I spent all weekend as a letterman and as somebody that cares very deeply about the program with this pit in my stomach, feeling heartbroken not only for Tylee's immediate family but for everybody in that locker room who lost a brother, and trying to put myself in their situations from when we were playing and how we would handle that. And I don't think there's really anything that could prepare you for that. So I guess just starting this podcast off today, what were your thoughts when you heard that Tylee had passed?
Yeah, so I was on the golf course. I didn't even watch the game, and I walk off 18. I check my phone to see the score, and I have my group chat is going off, and it's like Tylee passed away, rest in peace. And it's just I had this awful pit in my stomach, just like everybody around the country, and just such a great kid, and lose him at this age, it's the most heartbreaking thing. And obviously thoughts and prayers to his family, his loved ones, the Carolina football team, the staff, all the guys that were around him every day. I can't imagine that, because I was once in their shoes. And you know we can speak on it, how close we are to our teammates in those 4 to 5 years during college. Like, they are legitimately family, especially those receivers and the offensive guys. And there's a bond with your college teammates that you can't replicate or, create anywhere else other than like your natural born family. And, he had an impact that reached the whole country. His story should be told for eternity. And, I can't say enough good things about Tylee and his family. I was on staff when we recruited him out of South Carolina. And I remember him showing up to our summer camp and working out and getting an offer, and just the pure joy he had. Him and his mother were the sweetest people ever. I remember driving them from, the indoor practice facility to their car. We have a bunch of golf carts during camp, and I took both of them to their car. And it was a 30-second drive, and they were just the most thankful, sweet people, asking me where I'm from, how was my experience at Carolina, because they knew I played there. And just couldn't imagine two better people. And the stories I've heard over the last couple of years of just Tylee battling through this sickness and doing it with such a positive attitude. It's a lesson for all of us that obviously things are way more important than football, but it's a lesson for us of how to persevere and take each day and do it with a smile and positivity. And I still have a pit in my stomach. It's tough for me to say. I was laying on the couch all day watching football, just thinking about it and what I wanted to say. But really just, prayers and thoughts for his family, the team, because, especially with this being a bye week, it's going to be an abnormal week, and he's going to be on everyone's mind for, the rest of the season, hopefully the rest of their lives. So I just, would want to challenge our guys to, act like Tylee would, and do it with a smile on their face, and just always remember him, and his legacy will live on forever. So with that being said too, I want to give, we talk on this podcast a lot about, coaching decisions, coaching, the positives, the negatives. We critique, we try to be very objective in what we say. And I'm going to objectively say that Mack Brown is a phenomenal human being. The way he's cultivated that locker room and just have a family atmosphere there, and what he's done for Tylee and his family. He's truly a great man. And we don't need to talk anything about his coaching in this. We just, it's bigger than this right now, and we need to understand that he, you can see in that embrace that he had with Tylee's mother how much he meant to him and their family. And he's a great leader for our program, and I want to give him his flowers. And I know he's not doing it for that. That's just generally who he is. So I think, I also wanted to, put that note out there.
Yeah, he's the coach that this team needs right now to get through a tragedy like this, where you can have your disagreements over the X's and O's, the game management. A lot of that stuff will be most likely resolved in the offseason. But what this team needs now in an unprecedented time like this for guys that are, ranging 17 to 23 in that locker room, they need somebody like Mack Brown. And in times like Saturday, you can see why when he's embracing Tylee's family, or he's talking about what Tylee meant to the team and to everybody in that locker room in the post game, you could see why players and people love Mack Brown, the person. And when you're a Hall of Fame coach and the most wins for an active head coach, like you obviously do know a lot about football. But I think the one thing that Mack Brown can kind of always hang his hat on is that people will always say he's a better person than coach. And again, when you're a Hall of Fame coach, that really says something. But yeah, I've loved to see the tributes to Tylee, whether it's from teammates, coaches, anybody that's kind of shared their personal stories with him, where it feels like if you're reading a tweet, like his character is jumping off the screen, off your phone, and into your room, where you get a sense of who he is and who his personality is. And just going to that receiving room specifically, I thought it was an unbelievable moment for JJ Jones to not only wear the 13 jersey with Craft on the back, but score a touchdown. And I think that's a moment where 10 years from now, 20 years from now, no matter what JJ Jones ever does on a football field, if you ask him what his favorite memory on a football field is, that's probably going to be the moment that resonates with him the most. And yeah, I can't imagine what the players in that locker room are going through. It's going to be, I think Carolina is going to have to do something for Tylee, whether it's, put him in the Ring of Honor, make it that like Virginia Tech 25 tradition where somebody every week wears a 13. I've seen a lot of people throw out a lot of good ideas. You could do the thing where you paint both 13-yard lines. Just something that keeps his memory beyond this season.
Absolutely. And I think I saw online that they're going to rename the nutrition center or the nutrition area in Keenan Football Center after Tylee, which is a great honor for him and to keep his legacy alive. But I completely agree with you. I think more needs to be done to, his story should be told to every team for eternity that plays at North Carolina for the next however many years. So, yeah, rest in peace, Tylee.
Moving to the game, and I think losing somebody like Tylee kind of puts the game and football into perspective. But I know some people do want to still talk about the game. So focusing our attention to the game, Carolina loses 41-34 to Georgia Tech. Carolina loses their fourth straight game in the process. A game that it felt like at worst Carolina was going to go to overtime, where Copenhaver drops a ball in the end zone. Carolina has to settle for a field goal. Georgia Tech, with hardly any time, breaks one free and scores the game-winning touchdown. What were your overall takeaways from that game, Shot?
Georgia Tech was really good. I thought they were better than Pitt, in my opinion, better than Duke, maybe better than Minnesota. They attacked us where we are weak, and they used the Duke film and the Pitt film to specifically target our run defense. And even though our run defense was strong in the first three games, they found the weakness and how to, they put in a bunch of confusing runs and shifts and motions and counters and eye candy. I mean, if you're an aspiring offensive coordinator, you should go watch Buster Faulkner's run game tape from the Georgia Tech versus UNC game. I mean, he did everything. He had a diversity of runs, meaning he had inside runs, he had outside runs, he had zone runs, he had counter runs, he had split zones, he had jet sweeps, quarterback run game. I mean, he put so much stress on our defense, and I'm not, not giving our defense an excuse, but it was it was a masterpiece that they put on. Um, Confusing our defense every step of the way, from who had the ball in the zone read to who had the ball in the jet sweeps. I mean, our guys were lost all day. Terrible eyes from the second level and third level defenders. Our linebackers were confused. Our secondary that were in the run fit were confused. And with all that being said, I mean, we did have a chance to win the game. Criswell and Hampton, they played their butts off. They exhausted every ounce of energy they had on that field. I mean, Criswell, I want to tip my cap to him because he impressed the hell out of me this game. Just not so much by his touch and his throws, but just he was getting beat and hit, and he got up time after time and made some big plays with his legs and put us in a position to win the game, and threw a great ball to Copenhagen in the end zone to put us up with 30-40 seconds to go. And ultimately, Copenhagen doesn't come down with it, and he's usually a reliable guy. I guess looking glass half full, that there was many times during that game where we could have rolled over. I mean, we found a way once again to shoot ourselves in the foot. Any time we cut it within one score, we did something dumb to let them, whether we fumbled or let them go the length of the field on defense. Like, it was just one thing after another to give Georgia Tech the momentum again when it was slowly shifting back to us. But honestly, I'm saying this as a Carolina alum, and I'm proud of the way they fought, because they had heavy hearts. Obviously, I don't think they knew that Tylee had passed until after the game, but they knew that there was a chance that this could come, and for them to lock in and show fight and try to have a chance to win the game. I want to tip my cap to them, because the last 3 or 4 games haven't gone our way. But one thing I'll always respect from a man is how when they get knocked down, they keep fighting, and we kept swinging and ultimately had a chance. But we'll get to the nuts and bolts of why we ultimately lost. But the moral of the game was Georgia Tech's run game was elite, and we got out schemed, out coached, out toughed, out everything from that side of the ball. We didn't make any adjustments. We saw some similar run schemes that Duke and Pitt ran against us, and Georgia Tech just exploited us, and time after time after time, and we couldn't get it corrected.
Yeah, I think when you're talking about this North Carolina team, I don't think the one thing you can't say about this team, for as unpredictable as they are, as frustrating as they are to watch at times, they have not quit. They obviously care about the program and the success of the program, and putting in the efforts to get the results. Like, if you're watching this Carolina game and what you're seeing is a lack of effort, like, we're just watching two different things, because that's not what I'm seeing right now. And if you are taking the glass half full approach, I think it is what you mentioned. One, you have one of the best running backs in the country, Omarion Hampton, where Carolina is the only FBS program with a 100-yard rusher in each of its first 7 games. I think when you hear that stat, it's obviously very impressive, but the fact that you're 3-4, there's obviously other signs there for why this North Carolina team is losing, none of them being Omarion Hampton, because without him, this Carolina team would be in a lot of trouble without his talent in the backfield. And then the other glass half full approach is Jacoby Criswell. I think the quarterback play that you saw from the first, what was it, 2.5 games, 2.5, 3 games, to what you're seeing now, it's a night and day difference where I'm watching when Max Johnson and Connor Harrell playing, and I'm like, Carolina cannot win with these quarterbacks. When I'm watching Jacoby Criswell, I'm saying you can win with him. You're not winning with him right now, but you can win with him. And I thought, like you mentioned, he was decisive with his legs. He makes throws that the other quarterbacks haven't really shown. And at the very least, he is a building block where if you can shore up your offensive line and give them more time to protect and bring in some receivers that can create better separation, you at least have the foundations of something at that quarterback position. And when you're watching some teams across the country, whether it's Oklahoma or Oklahoma State, that's a lot more than some of those teams can say right now when they're looking at their quarterback position and being like, I don't think we have anything right now. And the quarterback position is going to be the thing that handcuffs us. But the reason why I was worried about playing Georgia Tech and why I predicted a Georgia Tech win is because Georgia Tech's identity is they want to run the ball against you. They want to out physical you. They want to win the game at the line of scrimmage. And the way this Carolina team is set up, they are not a team that is going to win many battles at the line of scrimmage. Georgia Tech rushed for 371 yards. They averaged 7.7 yards per carry. What did you see from the run defense, specifically at the end of the first half and at the end of the game where the game was kind of won and lost?
Yeah, so those two drives were the biggest, two drives of the game. Obviously, I mean, it's obvious they scored the game-winning touchdown with 30 seconds to go. But I wanted to talk about the offensive philosophy on both of those drives. So they're both pretty similar situations, right? The first one right before the half, Georgia Tech is up 17-14. There's 30 seconds to go on the clock, maybe 2 timeouts, and so the opening play call of a 2-minute drive is usually what the offensive coordinator likes to do is, let's say a quick pass, a quick screen, one of your best runs, to try to see if you can get some positive yards. If you can, say you pop 1 for 7 or 10 or 12, then you're like, boom, okay, let's progress and try to go put points on the board. Obviously, if you have a quick run or quick pass and it's a negative yardage play or you don't have any success, then you're like, okay, maybe we can slow it down and just kind of leak this thing into half. The run play that Georgia Tech ran right before the half was just a 2-by-2 set, and they just ran a simple inside zone, which is day one install run play from any offense and any defense, right? There's no pullers, there's no tight ends coming across the formation to crack the defensive end. It's just a simple zone to the right, and the running back is just gonna, lead up in there. And the defensive call was completely fine. We had an unblocked edge defender, Kamen Rucker, a fifth-year player, one of our best players, who completely lost focus and lost leverage. And the second level and the third level that we're pursuing, they both took bad angles. I mean, I think we had 4 or 5 missed tackles on that play alone, on a simple play that Georgia Tech was probably just like, we're fine if we go into half up 3. And it's just frustrating to me because it's the same thing over and over again. We didn't get out schemed there. It was just terrible angles and terrible technique by 5 of our better defenders, of just, if they have leverage on the ball carrier, of them not, can maintaining their leverage and letting the ball cut across their face multiple times. And, with that, obviously Georgia Tech gets a 40 yard gain on the first play of the drive. So they're across midfield and they're like, oh, hell yeah, we're going to go try to put points on the board. And obviously back-to-back quarterback runs, and now they're down to the 15-yard line and 3 run plays with 30 seconds. And it's just so frustrating because those 3 points, are very crucial to the outcome of the game. And then very similarly, at the end of the game, it's we kick a field goal. It's 34-34, 29 seconds to go, 2 timeouts. They have a backup quarterback in the game who has thrown one pass. Okay, one pass for 7 yards. And the first play that Georgia Tech runs, it's a very similar thing. They have an RPO with a bubble. So they have an inside zone run, and the 2 receivers, they run a bubble screen out wide. And the quarterback does a good job of reading, the run's bottled up. So I'm going to dump it to the receiver. They get 6 yards. Okay, that's a semi-positive play. And they aren't even in a crazy tempo. There was 14 seconds that elapsed from the clock from the time that the ball carrier was tackled to the time they ran the next play. So they weren't going at light speed tempo to try to go down and kick a field goal to win the game. They were just like, all right, we're going to run another run and let's see what happens. And again, schematically, they ran counter, which is what Duke whooped our butt with the second half of the game a couple weeks ago. We had 7 defenders in the box. Okay, it was a 2-by-2 set, and they ran guard, tackle, counter. We had 7 defenders to their 6 offensive guys, the 5 offensive linemen and the running back. So we outnumbered them in the run game, and we had an unblocked defender sitting there. I don't know what the call was, because the linebacker on the play, he boxed the ball back to nobody. There was Caleb Cost, who was sitting outside of him, ready to make the tackle. And, Marcus Allen looked hurt on the play. He couldn't chase him down. And just something as simple as those 2 run plays that gashed for 60 yards combined, or 60. And, that's the tail of the game. And in both of those scenarios, in my opinion, I think if you asked the head coach or the offensive coordinator, they probably were content of, just running out the clock. And both of those scenarios, the first half of just going into half up 17-14, and at the end of the game going into overtime 34-34. But because we made mistakes, very simple run plays, we are now losing the game because of it. And I think I would love to do like a film breakdown of that play, because it's pretty simple run, and our guys have defended it a bunch. It wasn't even one of those exotic run plays that they've run throughout the game with all these motions and shifts and tight ends swaying across the ball. I mean, it was a very basic run play, and we couldn't even get him down for 10, 12, 15 yards. He hit his head on the goalpost. And yeah, that was a frustrating one.
Yeah, I think in this 4-game losing streak where Carolina has lost 4 games consecutively for the first time since 2018, I think that was the moment where the Carolina fan, if you're not going to cry, you have to laugh. And I think that was where some people were at, where it was like, you got to be kidding me that this is how this team is going to lose, where every week it feels like they're finding another excruciating way to lose a game. And this time against a team without their first team quarterback, who was already playing that game maybe 50% arm wise, to lose that game in that fashion was just a brutal way to lose it. And you mentioned at the end of the first half, K'Mon Rucker missing a tackle. He missed 3 tackles against Georgia Tech. His PFF grade was 37.1, the lowest grade he's had as a Tar Heel.
Yeah, probably in his career.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was, for somebody who has been as reliable as he has been, seeing that number, it's most likely game tape that he's ready to forget and get back on the field and move past. But quick break so I can remind everybody about our sponsors and the people that are supporting us. First up, it's Lucha Tigre. Qua, the owner of Lucha Tigre, is a massive Carolina fan. And at Lucha Tigre, he is fusing Latin and Asian cuisine with a full bar serving tequila and sake. Shot, what's your go-to?
General Tso's, baby. But I also love the spicy chicken and noodles. I mean, I love it all.
The-
Everything on the menu is
at
chef's
Lucha
kiss.
Tigre, you can't go wrong
You
with
can't.
what you order.
It just depends on what mood you're in. If you want fried wings, if you want dumplings, if you want, I mean, beef bulgogi nachos, they got the green bean appetizer. I mean, I'm sure if you wanted to come up with your own special dish and just order whatever you wanted and combine a bunch of stuff, Qual would do that in the back. He can do it all. He's a 5-star.
Yeah, and the best part about Lucha Tigre is that it's great food, better people. It's right off MLK Boulevard, and if you mention that you heard about Lucha Tigre from this podcast on Inside Carolina, you will get a discount off your total order. And then finally, our friends over at Johnny T-Shirt. If you're going to be in Chapel Hill, you could visit Johnny T-Shirt on Franklin Street. And if not, no worries. You could go online to johnnytshirt.com. They have everything that the Carolina fan could possibly want: the hats, the T-shirts, the jerseys, you name it, they've got it. Again, great people, great customer service. And don't forget, Inside Carolina premium subscribers save 10% off their orders. Shot, the last thing I want to talk about from this Georgia Tech game, and we've mentioned that Carolina is now on its third defensive coordinator in the Mack Brown 2.0 era. And one of the things that has kind of plagued every defense that we've seen during that stretch has been the mobile quarterback, where Haynes King comes in banged up. Reports are that he was feeling a lot of discomfort trying to throw the ball. He completes 11 of 22 passes for 127 yards, doesn't throw for a touchdown. So you look at that stat line and you're like, wow, Carolina must have done pretty good defensively. And then you look at Haynes King, 11 carries, 107 yards, 9.7 yards per carry, 2 touchdowns, where the running quarterback continues to really hurt this Carolina defense. What were you seeing that kind of led to why Haynes King was able to be so efficient as a runner?
I mean, like I mentioned in the opening statement, I think Georgia Tech did a lot with their offensive scheme to keep us, on our heels. But all the talk in the offseason was Jeff Collins is an attacking coach. He's as aggressive as a defensive coordinator as there is in college football. He blitzes from every angle, from every position, and I just haven't seen that. Um, it's one thing to give up, 70 points in a game, 41 points in a game. If I'm going to do it, I'm going to go down swinging, and I want to see more aggressive calls out of him. If we're just sitting in base 4-down defense and playing coverage behind it, that's obviously not working. So let's at least try to go back to his roots and attack and bring 6 guys, bring 7 guys. If it's quarterback's banged up and can't throw as well, and you can tell after the first drive that Georgia Tech is just trying to run the ball all game. Well, let's throw in some run blitzes and figure out a way to try to create some negative yardage. And the biggest issue we had playing them was on PN10. So the first play of the first drive on first down, they would gain positive yards every time they took the field. When you're constantly living in 2nd and 4, 2nd and 3, it is so hard to call a defense because the offense has their full playbook at their disposal. So that was the big issue, is our first down defense was terrible. We were letting up, 7, 8 yards a pop on average on first down. And that just, puts us behind the 8 ball and doesn't allow us to do that. So, I think we need to be more aggressive on first down. And people always say, well, it's a double-edged sword of, well, then our DBs, if they do pass the ball when we're blitzing, then they have to cover. Well, in my opinion, pressure bursts pipes sometimes. All right. If you blitz and you have a good blitz and you get there before the coverage is exposed. So I think we got to take our chances and look, we're not competing for an ACC championship. We're damn near, we're barely trying to compete for a bowl game. So let's just empty the chamber, Jeff Collins. you have as many bullets as you want. Let's fire them all, and get way more aggressive on our defense, and see what we can do, because this is the style of defense we saw the last 2 years with Chiswick. Of honestly, I think Chiswick may have pressured more over the last 2 years than Coach Collins. So obviously, I don't have the answers. I'm not in those film rooms, but to the objective naked eye, I think we need to be way more aggressive and do more things. So that's kind of my thought on that.
Yeah, Carolina had 2 tackles for a loss, and Georgia Tech had 48 carries. Carolina also had 0 sacks. And I think that point you hit on has been one of the biggest disappointments this season, where you have a defensive coordinator who comes in with the nickname the Minister of Mayhem, and you're like, where's the mayhem that I was promised? Because the only mayhem it looks like at times is the Carolina defense trying to figure out what's happening.
Yeah, I'm kind of baffled by it, honestly. Like, I watched the game, and I don't see any attacking style defense, and that's what we preached all offseason. I think here's my philosophy. I think if you blitz more than not, there's going to be times where you do give up a big play. You give up explosive plays in the run game because if a slanting defensive lineman gets cut out of his gap or whatever. But you're also going to hit on a few of those blitzes and create negative plays.
Yeah.
So let's say we do get a 7-yard TFL on first down. Well, now it's 2nd and 17, and I'll take those chances all day, because it's way tougher for an offense to get 17 yards and 2 downs versus when they're living in 2nd and 2, 2nd and 3. So be it. It's just hard to play defense like that. So going forward, I'd love to see more aggressiveness. I don't know if we can get the memo to Coach Collins and the defensive staff, but in my opinion, there's really nothing to lose. Let's try to go back to that attacking style that he promised us in the offseason and see what happens.
All right, let's take a quick break so I can remind everybody about our friends over at Congruity. Congruity is the leading provider for Tar Heel business owners, payroll, HR, and employee benefit needs. Inside Carolina listeners can get a free payroll and HR assessment by emailing Matt at Congruity. Email is matt@congruityhr.com. That email again is matt@congruityhr.com. All right, let's get back to the episode. Carolina is entering their bye week this week. You could argue it couldn't come at a better time with everything going around the program right now, where the team can get this hard reset after 4 straight losses, after the death of a teammate, everything that they're kind of dealing with in the Kenan Football Center. But when you're looking at just from this team from a football perspective, glass half full, your next upcoming games are Virginia, Florida State, Wake Forest, Boston College, NC State, where I know a lot of people are down on this Carolina team right now and don't really see them turning their season around. Glass half full, every game that I just listed, winnable. The problem with this team and with how this team plays, every game on the schedule, also pretty losable. So if you are this North Carolina team, how do you go into this bye week and kind of reset your mind to focus on the back half of the schedule to try to save your season?
I think this bye week is going to be one of the most abnormal bye weeks that any college program has ever had, just due to the passing of Tylee and what's gonna be going through our players' heads. Are they going to be wanting to practice? Obviously there's going to be a funeral and things of that nature. But I think Coach Brown and his staff will come up with the best option to maybe give the guys a couple of days off and then get back to football later in the week, because the bye weeks are normally tailored around the young guys getting a bunch of reps, and the seasoned vets like Rucker and Power Eccles and Nesbitt and Copenhaver, and get them off their feet and give them a chance to recover a little bit. and I'm sure that that'll be the case. But there obviously are some other distractions around this week, and obviously more important distractions than football. So it will be a good reset. It'll allow the guys to get around family for a little bit, and in a time where they really need it. So I'm hoping that they take Tylee's spirit the rest of the way, and really come close as a team, and try to find a way to win 4, 5, 6 games that they have left on the schedule. Like you said, each game is winnable. Obviously, each game is losable. That's the same thing for every college football team. You see week in, week out, each game is winnable, each game is losable, and obviously that's not very good analysis, but it's just the truth. I was down on the team after a couple weeks ago, and I said the ceiling of this team is to win a bowl game or get to a bowl game, but I think we can win 3 games. State is they're a hot mess too. Boston College isn't as strong as they started off. Wake obviously is not as talented as they were with Sam Hartman at quarterback. FSU, we've seen them play, week in and week out, and they're not a great team at all. UVA, same thing. I mean, I could see us winning 4 of those games and closing out the season 7-5, and that would go win a bowl game and dedicate it to Tylee and finish on a strong note. But I'm gonna be optimistic tonight because I got the spirit of Tylee, and I think that's what he would want us to do. But yeah, that's all I got.
Yeah, I think a lot of the scheduling coming down the stretch for North Carolina is kind of like the that Spider-Man meme where the Spider-Man is pointing back at the Spider-Man, where it's like it's essentially the same football team. You just have a different uniform and a different logo, and none of these teams look that good on paper. None of these teams have played that good on the field. So it kind of comes down to one team has to win. So if you are Carolina, you have to kind of take that why not us mentality into every game. But Shotman, appreciate the time as always, and appreciate everybody watching and listening.
Appreciate it, Vip. Appreciate it, everybody.